hello everyone. Welcome to the YouTube channel of Get Set Law by IMS. I'm your verbal ability mentor, Sanjana Ma'am, and today let's decode the logical reasoning section of CLAT 2025. I've already done a video on the English language section of CLAT 2025 previously, so you can definitely go and watch it to gain more insights. There are some clarifications I've given on some questions and their corresponding solutions. So let's begin with the first passage of logical reasoning section of CLAT 2025. Okay, so my understanding on this passage is that you have to read the entire passage. I don't think so you have to skim through it, also because the passage per se wasn't that lengthy, right? And to be able to read this and understand it within 2 minutes is a pretty doable task. Okay, so this passage focuses on homelessness, all right? And it says that homelessness, even though while a majority of homeless groups, they exist solely, right, in modernized cultures, but today it's become a global phenomenon, right? It's something that happens throughout the world because everywhere people are in constant search of food, water, shelter, and obviously they have nowhere to go. Now, this is important. Homelessness was originally believed to be a cultural problem, okay? But it is now revealing itself as a global problem, okay? So this is important information. It is suffered by all of humanity, all right? Now, although this problem exists everywhere, it is more stark or glaring or severe in certain parts of the world, which is why there is no one fixed solution to take care of the problem, no one set of guidelines. You need to have your own tailored guidelines to take care of it. Okay, now an example is given of that of the United States, and this example is perhaps given to indicate that homelessness, as we generally think, does not exist simply in the poorer countries. It can also exist in one of the wealthiest nations in the world, which in this case is United States, right? And there's a survey that's cited, right, by the United Nations, that 1.6 billion people lack adequate housing. So that's quite a big number, right? The causes vary for homelessness depending on the place and person. Common causes have been talked about, which is there is a lack of affordable housing. That's one. There's poverty. That's two. A lack of mental health services, that's three, right? And it is rooted in systemic failures that fail to protect those who are the most vulnerable. Now, approximately 580,000 people experience homelessness on any given night in the United States, okay? And this has been stated by the HUD Department of the United States. This is all there is to the passage. There is some more information further. It says that the number of individuals experiencing homelessness, this also varies by region. With urban areas, and it said that urban areas experience higher rates of homelessness compared to the rural areas. Again, important piece of information. And COVID-19 also had a lot to do with exacerbating or aggravating or worsening homelessness and housing insecurity. And it led to increased rates of eviction, led to unemployment and housing instability. So COVID-19 too is stated as a contributor to homelessness and just making the problem even more aggravated, right? And it says that the economic fallout from the pandemic, okay? So the economic restraints that were put, right? It has further strained resources and support systems for individuals and families experiencing homelessness. So the economic fallout has worsened the problem further for individuals and families that are already experiencing homelessness. That's all there is to the passage. We're talking about homeless as a phenomenon. Then we're focusing on the factors that led to homelessness. And we have given an example of that of the United States, which also has homelessness as a problem, right? So let's focus on the questions one by one. Okay, the first question here. For the above paragraph, which of the following statements is true? According to the answer key, the correct option here is ultimately option C. Because A says, when people in industrialized nations think of homelessness, they generally imagine third world countries where poverty is rampant. Now, this belief system is not given anywhere in the passage, and therefore, this is something which we cannot infer. This is an inference question only. All right? B says, generally the impoverished are thought of to exist in third world countries only, but they are present even in the largest cities of the world. Again, largest cities of the world, that's not specifically mentioned. If at all, it's going to be a very remote inference, but we shouldn't risk choosing option B. And C says, homelessness increases due to major turbulence on the economic and cultural aspects. So it's mentioned explicitly in the passage that initially homelessness was a cultural phenomenon, right? It emanated because of cultural factors. And it's also mentioned that the economic fallout of the pandemic had worsened the problem further for people who were already experiencing homelessness. So this is true. This is something we can definitely infer that makes C the correct option choice. D is definitely not correct because A and B are already cancelled. Take a look at the next question. There are several causes of homelessness. Which of the following is the least likely a cause of homelessness? And the best way to solve this question is to just look for that option which is definitely not having anything to do with homelessness. In this case, it becomes proper healthcare. Nowhere in the passage have we linked proper healthcare to creating cause homelessness or being a cause of homelessness. So this is a question which you can solve through selection. You don't have to go through every option and eliminate. Even though violence in the home or substance abuse per se is not mentioned, but remotely speaking, they can still lead to homelessness, right? Loss of job or income, which is unemployment. It definitely has been mentioned as a contributor to homelessness, but that which is not given is D. Hence, D is the correct option for this question. The next question, homelessness in case of mental illness can be strengthened or furthered. So you have to basically strengthen this argument, right? Or you have to find another option that can provide a reason as to why homelessness in case of mental illness can become even worse. So that option. The stress of being homeless may exacerbate previous mental illness and encourage anxiety, fear, depression. All of these terms, to be fair, are not given in the passage. So we cannot choose option A. If option A is out, then option D is also out, right? B says people with mental illness remain homeless for longer periods of time and have less contact with family and friends. Nowhere mentioned in the passage. Cancel option B. So that which we're left with now is option C, which by default is your correct option choice. That poor mental health predisposes individuals to homelessness. And these homeless people, right, they actually end up suffering from further problems due to particularly severe health problems. Okay, it says poor mental health predisposes individuals to homelessness, and this homelessness is going to expose the individuals to particularly severe health problems. Now, how do I infer this from the passage, right? So it's given when you're homeless, it can lead to higher rates of eviction, unemployment, housing instability, right? Economic fallout is also something that you get exposed to. And if all of this is happening accumulatively, you can also be exposed to severe health problems. So this, even though not directly mentioned, at least we can still infer this remotely, and that makes C the correct option choice for this question. The next question is it's asking you that homelessness in reference to the above paragraph can be observed most closely in the form of inadequate entertainment avenues, absolutely not given, cancel A. Shortage of appropriate clothing, absolutely not given, again, cancel. Poor prospects of employment, which is almost the same as unemployment, and unemployment is directly mentioned in the passage. So that should lead us to choose option C is the correct option choice for this. Inadequate medical services, it's not given as a direct contributor to homelessness. So the most potent option choice here becomes option C, and that's your correct option choice for this question. Now, the next question, I chose to put it here on the screen, but I also wanted to tell you that this had been withdrawn by the consortium. So let's not discuss this question. We'll move on to the next question now, which is, which of the following is not a myth about people experiencing homelessness? What it says is, out of these four options, there are three options which are stereotypical beliefs, myths that we have about homeless people or homelessness. One which is definitely an actual consequence or a cause of homelessness. The correct option for this question is actually D, which is people experiencing homelessness find it difficult to obtain a job, and this is definitely given in the passage. So this is not a myth. Again, this is a question which you can solve through selection. All right. So the correct option choice here is D. All the other three options, A, B, C, in a way, these are myths that we harbor about homelessness, right? D isn't. D is an actual consequence that can happen because of homelessness. Let's focus on the next passage. Now, the next passage is actually very easy. Firstly, it's very short. It is full of information, But then when you actually go through all the questions, it's super easy to answer it. So according to me, this next passage was a full scorer. So it says you're a consultant and your work consists of a deep examination of company's environment and internal system to notice what inefficiencies and potential improvements. So basically what ma'am is doing here is ma'am is highlighting keywords. When you highlight keywords either through a pen or mentally, right, or in your mind, then it becomes easier to retain information, right? So being a consultant, your work, your job, it comprises deep examination of your company's external environment, the internal system, to notice inefficiencies, potential improvements, right? And then you're interacting with the company's management and different sections to decipher, decode, understand the objectives, opportunities, processes, right? This means that through the use of data analysis. So you have data analysis to your rescue. You use data analysis, industry best practices, okay, and formulation of creative ways of solving all problems to come up with unique solutions to problems of inefficiency, right? So that you can increase efficiency and productivity. So this is the ultimate objective in a way, right? And profitability for employers. Now, what all this contains is it entails operations such as logistics, redesign, business process reengineering, overall a revamping of the entire system, right? Even community relation programs, people management is a very important component of change management to make sure that all relevant parties interpret the potential alterations positively so that communication is made to all the relevant parties, stakeholders, so that they also understand the changes made, right? Also to offer orientation, create resources to explain the changes. Again, what I feel is communication is important to all the stakeholders, right? Stakeholders here, right? Make it comfortable with the shift. The general goal is the organization's ability to grow and remain relevant with the shareholders and stakeholders in the industries it operates. How easy this entire passage is. Let's read further. Okay, so we have the first question only. For the previous passage, for the passage that I've just read, there is no one main idea. It's just very informative in nature. Let's focus on the question. Primary responsibility of you being a company's efficient consultant. So it's sort of like very decision-making / application-based question. So what's the primary responsibility? Analyzing the organization structure, processes, and market position. And it actually makes sense. I would say A is the correct option, not because it's the lengthiest one, but because it's the most comprehensive option. You as a consultant, you have some important responsibilities, which is understanding the internal system, which is organization structure, managing things, the processes, logistics, all of this is mentioned, and market position. So A is the best option choice. Managing daily operations is a small part, right? It's a small part of it. But this in itself sort of gets captured in option A. Hiring new employees is absolutely wrong. Conducting maintenance, this is just like so small, right? So C, D you can eliminate. A is the best option choice. Take a look at the next question. With whom does a consultant work closely to understand the company's goals and challenges? This also is going to be easy. No. Customers is not explicitly given. Competitors is not given. External vendors is not given. Correct option is B, higher management and various departments, right? Because you have to sort of synergize all the departments here. Higher management is something you always have to interact with being a consultant, right? Next question. Now imagine yourself as a consultant and find what methods you will use to develop customized solutions. Data analysis was mentioned. Intuition and guesswork is definitely not there. Social media trends, absolutely not. Random selection, absolutely not. I did mention data analysis, and there you have your correct option. Industry best practices, you have to be very creative, innovative. Data analysis, all of this is explicitly mentioned. A, B, C are not given. Choose D as the correct option choice. The next question now, which of the following might a consultant optimize to improve company efficiency? Now tell me, students, is office decoration mentioned in the passage? Absolutely not. Lunch menus? Not given. Employees' dress codes? Not given. Even the supply chain management is not directly given, right? I'll just mention it here. But it's the safest option choice to choose because A, C, and D are still not given explicitly. Supply chain management, we can still infer it based on the information made, right? And B here is the correct option, right? So it's more of a check on your skills. Are you able to eliminate the wrong options well? The next question, why is communication the most relevant thing for a consultant? And I did mention while explaining the passage that communication to stakeholders is important to ensure all stakeholders understand or interpret the alternatives that have been included now. Mark is the best option choice. Consumer meets, organizing consumer meets, not given. Updating the company website, absolutely not given. Going very far-fetched. To manage the human resources, not really the information, because the direct answer only is given in the passage itself. So that makes A the best option choice for this question. Take a look at the next question. What additional support might a consultant provide to help the team adapt to new processes? Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Mental health programs. Do we actually require mental health programs to help the team adapt to new processes? All of this is, I feel, really application-based. And when I say application-based, you also have to factor in, the keywords given in the passage. So, no, mental health issues are not really talked about. So, D is out. Personal counseling, personal support, that too is not given. Planning a retreat for the team members, taking them out on resort holidays or something along those lines, this too is not given. The best option choice is training and support, the safest one here. Again, you don't have to always ask yourself, on the off chance that such a situation gets presented to you in CLAT 2026 also, but all the other options are definitely not given, or training and support is also not mentioned, but it's the safest choice to choose, right? So we as examiners can also test you on these skills, right? So B here is the best option choice for this particular passage. Let's focus on the third passage. Now, I'll also like to add that there was a passage based on arrangements. So this is something we will not be discussing. We'll focus on that which is purely critical reasoning oriented here. The third passage will be this, and it talks about India being poised for rapid economic growth, right? And how is the growth brought about? It's brought about by young population driving production and demand. However, the fallout is slightly negative in nature, which is that in this process, lifestyles are being dramatically altered, but not for the better, for the worse. India now reports the highest growth of ultra-processed food consumption amongst the youth, as well as low levels of exercise and adequate sleep, low level of adequate sleep. Okay. Now, cultural changes, which is including smartphones, preponderance of prioritizing English in schools, are also associated with weakened family relationships. Now, all of this information is important, right? The role of these factors on mental well-being was not well understood until recently, when now we have just come to understand these things, okay? Because recent findings are shedding light on the correlates of mental well-being amongst adolescents. So the findings are really dangerous or dire. There is a silent epidemic. Now, this is where the focus shifts on mental health crisis in India, right? Previous studies have found that, so we're also looking at factors contributing to it, right? That ownership of smartphones is frying the brain, okay? Data also suggests that it is not merely the ownership of a phone, but also the early age of access. So not just because somebody is simply owning a phone, but also how early you get access to a smartphone, because it is associated with worse cognition. You're not able to think properly, right? And reason, and mental well-being as young adults, right? So the young brain is developing and must be nurtured. And these gadgets are handled to adolescents, presumably more out of convenience than sound logic. So logic takes a backseat. Just because it's important, it's convenient to utilize a phone. So we're just handing these phones out to the young adolescents, right? Now, an example is given, a quote is given by the American philosopher, technology is an improved means to an unimproved end. A very potent statement. It has a lot of meaning to it, right? This is an extreme position, right? But one worth thinking about, because India reports the highest growth in consumption of ultra-processed foods. Evidence suggests that these foods are as addictive as smoking, right? There's also strong association between the consumption of these foods and poor mental well-being, particularly the capacities for emotional and cognitive control. So the factors that can lead to poor mental well-being amongst adolescents in India, the young adolescents, by the way. One is smartphones, because they're frying the brain, not literally, metaphorically. And the second one is your ultra processed foods. So these two are the points you need to keep in mind. Having said that, let's take a look at the questions one by one. The first question, which of the following should be the most suitable title for the passage? Now tell me, anywhere in the passage, are we talking about economic growth? It just talked about in the first line, but that's not enough. Lifestyle has become a problem, and because of the new lifestyle, dramatic alterations have been made to the lifestyle for the worse. Mental health problem, the mental health, aspect is getting impacted. And your title is supposed to be the title that captures the main idea. In this case, the best option choice is option A. All right. Look at C. Impact of technology on the youth, not given. Language and cultural change, not given. A is the best option choice. Take a look at the next question. Now, technology is an improved means to an unimproved end. That was the line given by the philosopher, right? Now, which of the following closely reflects the meaning of the new given statement? So, it's an improved means, but it's not really doing anything as a consequence. It might just worsen things. This is my take on it. Let's see if there's an option that matches my understanding of this statement. A says new technologies have to be accepted by primarily focusing on its positive results. How? How can we infer A from this statement? Not given. Absolutely out. New technologies create a hindrance to the physical health of an individual. The physical health aspect is talked about, but does it directly impact the physical health? No. So we will not choose B. Poor mental health is a result of the invention of new technologies, not a direct result, right? So C is out. It's because of how we utilize. It's not a constructive use, then it can definitely get impacted. But just because there is an invention of a new technology does not directly mean that it's going to worsen somebody's mental health. So A, B, C are out. We're left with D, which is the correct option. They should be looked upon with skepticism. So there is a doubt that the author expresses that even though technology is an improved means, it does not particularly lead to an unimproved, it leads to an unimproved end. The end is not taken care of, considering its negative impact. This statement in itself has a negative tone to it. So choose an option that captures that. In this case, it's D. Let's focus on the next question. Now, in the next question, you have to strengthen the argument. An argument is regarding the negative use of smartphones amongst the youth. So whatever option we choose, just make sure that it's relevant to the information given in the passage. Excessive use of smartphones may lead to weakened family relationships. And then if we choose option A, in a way, it is only going to add more credence to the negative use of smartphones, right? So option A seems to be a correct strengthening option. B says there has to be an unhindered use of smartphones. This actually doesn't talk about the negative use of smartphones. In fact, it only proposes the utility of smartphones. So cancel option B. Smartphones have economic usefulness. Again, this doesn't strengthen the negative use, it weakens it, because ultimately you're saying that smartphones can be utilized. So in no way is it strengthening. And now we're left with D. Ownership of smartphones at an early age results due to lack of care by parents. Now students, this is what I like to call a distorted option. Here we're actually saying that ownership of smartphones at an early age is caused because parents do not offer much care to the children. Now this is actually going off the tangent. It's not really relevant to the argument here. In this case, you have to strengthen it. Hence, choose option A as the best option choice. The next question, now you have to find a plausible solution for better mental well-being amongst the youth. All right, let's go through the options one by one. Limiting the correlation between physical and mental health. How is this in any way a solution? How does this take care of the problem of better mental well-being? Even if you limit the correlation between physical and mental health, how does it have anything to do with bettering the mental well-being? Option A is a very distorted option choice. Cancel it. Limiting the research on excessive use of smartphones. All right, we're limiting the research. No more research on excessive use of smartphones. But what are we doing to take care of the better mental well-being, right? Nothing. So B2 is very hollow in nature. C says limiting the widespread consumption of ultra-processed foods. And let me tell you, while explaining the passage, I did mention there are two factors which can impact the mental well-being of an individual. In this case, it can be an ultra-processed food item or using smartphones excessively at that. So the best option choice is C, because if we can limit the widespread consumption of ultra-processed foods, it can lead to a reduction in the diseases that are formed by it, right? And better mental health. So C is the best option choice. Again, limiting the informed use is actually a positive thing. If you really tell people that use smartphones but use it constructively, we shouldn't actually limit this information, right? We should just spread this information more. We should tell people to use it in an informed manner, make informed choices. So D is the wrong option. Best option is C for this particular question. The next question: which of the following statements by the author lack credible evidence in the passage? Okay, just pay attention. It lacks credible evidence in the passage. Excessive mobile usage linked to mental health issues. This is already sufficiently proven in the passage, hence this is out. Providing mobiles to adolescents resulting in mental stress. We have enough evidence in the passage to talk about this. Now understand, it says inadequate sleep and junk food, which is ultra-processed foods, they result in mental distress. Multiple lines have been mentioned in the passage to talk about this point. What is left by default is option C, which actually is the correct option choice. Students learning the English language have weakened family relationships. Even though in the passage, if it's mentioned that there is preponderance of English in schools and it can lead to weakened family relationships, what is the evidence to prove that? There is no other information which tells us, see, this is how this is happening. So this has just been mentioned as a fact. It's not been proven anywhere in the passage, and best option choice therefore becomes C, because you have to choose an option that lacks credible evidence. And the last passage for this is, these gadgets are handed to adolescents, presumably more out of convenience than sound logic. Which of the following is the most suitable explanation echoed by the author as per the given statement? All right. So you just have to choose an option which paraphrases it. So we are saying that the gadgets are handed to adolescents more out of convenience and less out of logic. It's because logic is put on the back burner. It takes a backseat over utility. We just want to give it to people because we think it's important. It's important to use it. So it will be convenient for you. But then are we really being logical? What if it's unnecessary to give to them as well? So the simple explanation of this line as given in the passage is option T. Rest is all out. Logic prevails over reasoning. This is actually contradictory. Right? Logic and emotions go hand in hand. Absolutely wrong. Logic and benefits can never be understood together. Now, this is something which is out of context. So, best option choice becomes option C for this particular question. So yes, students, that was it. This was the decoding of the logical reasoning section of CLAT 2025. I hope you've gone through the pointers, insights that have been shared by me. And if you really like the video, do let us know in the comment section. And if you have any more doubts and queries, you can reach out to us anytime. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.